So my physical therapist came to see me this week, and I'm doing these back exercises and all this. She's from New Jersey, wonderful person. And she told me she's out here, no family out here, and she was invited by some friends that she met, that she knows now, and she was invited to their house for a Christmas party. And when she got there, the hostess said something about, well, we'll be having this white elephant gift exchange. And she was all embarrassed. She said, OMG, oh my God. She said, I didn't bring a gift. She said, don't worry. She said, we bought all the gifts. And so there were 40 people coming, and they bought 40 gifts, and it was just for a fun exchange. She said to me, she says, who does this? Buys all the gifts for everybody. And then they give the gifts, and they get to go home with this gift. But I'll tell you who does it. Anybody who believes in Christmas. Now, there's a lot of boys and girls here, some very young, who, quite frankly, when they think of Christmas, who do they think of? Santa Claus. But do you get this, boys and girls? Santa Claus represents the best of a spirit of Christmas because everybody here gives gifts to each other. We come together at Christmas to give gifts to each other. Why? What are we celebrating? Right here, yes? Jesus' birth. So we celebrate Jesus' birth by giving gifts to one another. How good is that? Because the point of it is to celebrate, to be generous, to be surprised, to be happy, to celebrate in joy. That's what this is about. 50 years ago, more or less, and I have to pause to say, if I became a doctor, which I wouldn't because it would be so much study, but if I did, I would become a neurosurgeon. I'm sure of it. Because as I've grown older, I really appreciate the brain. Because I'm going to tell you a story that happened 50 years ago. One afternoon, maybe 5 minutes in total, 5 minutes. And I remember it to this day as if it happened yesterday. In fact, I've told it to so many friends that every once in a while they just say this little phrase and it brings it right back. I was in the dining room of my parents' house over on Camellia Street in North Hollywood, Studio City, and my Aunt Lydia was there, my dad's sister. And it was a windy day, kind of like the other night. You know how windy it was all night as it rained? And my Aunt Lydia said, oh my God, it's so windy tonight. And my dad said, it's just a breeze. And it bothered my aunt, his sister. And she said, I can't repeat it, but she just said, for God's sake, Eddie, it's windy. It's so windy out there. So he waited about 5 seconds and said, it's just a breeze. And it really bothered her again. And so she said it again. She said, for God's sakes, Eddie, it's windy out there. What are you saying? It is so windy. And it was. So he waited about 5 seconds and it's just a breeze. And then whatever. And that is as fresh in my head as if it happened yesterday. Now, if you know me really well, I suppose most of you don't really know me that well, but I have this bizarre sense of humor that comes from my father. Only my father could pull this off. He just kept stabbing her. It's just a breeze. She'd throw a fit. It's just a breeze. Throw a fit. But the thing is, why do I remember that? I don't know. My dad said all kinds of crazy things, but that one afternoon with my Aunt Lydia in the dining room, it's as fresh as if it happened yesterday. And our brains store this kind of stuff, this nonsense, and keep it alive and delight us. So, boys and girls, I'm here tonight. I know there's mostly adults here, but I want to say this. I want to, like a neurosurgeon, get into your brains tonight, okay? I want to ask you to remember two things tonight around Jesus, and I'm going to ask you after the Mass to go investigate for one of them. But the first one comes from the Gospel reading tonight. And I want to ask, this is just for the children. I want to see if anybody remembers what was said in the gospel. The angel came to visit Joseph, and he was in a dream, and he said that this child was going to be born of Mary. And this is what the angel said to Joseph. Only children can answer this, okay? Said his name will be, said he will be called, Emmanuel. He will be called Emmanuel, which means what? God is with us. So I want you to go home tonight, and if other family members come later tonight or tomorrow to celebrate, this is what you tell them. You said, Jesus was called, which means, wow, what a message. That Jesus will be called by everyone Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And that's exactly the point when we celebrate Jesus. This is why Santa Claus gives gifts to everybody and we give gifts to each other, because we're celebrating the coming of God into our lives in a very special way in the person of Jesus Christ. We will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And not only has God been with us at the birth of Jesus, in a very special way, right there, the same Jesus who died on the cross, if there was ever a time that God was with him, it was when he died. And he was totally rejected. I mean, take a look at that cross. He's practically naked. He's bloody. He's got wounds and nails through his hands and feet, thorns in his head. He's been rejected and laughed at and ridiculed. He's dying. And he says these words, Father, to God his Father, Father, forgive them all. They know not what they do. He was totally connected with God our Father. Emmanuel, God with us in Jesus, not just at his birth, but at his death. This is who we celebrate. This is why Santa Claus gives gifts to everybody and we give to each other, because we say, this is not just a baby born among us. This is Jesus the Christ, Emmanuel, God with us. So I want you to remember that. And you tell everyone who comes to your house tomorrow, when they say, who are we celebrating? You can say, we're celebrating the birth of Jesus because he was called, and see if they know. Say, who was he called? And if they don't know, they probably won't, you say, Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And you will be great teachers of Jesus tomorrow. The other thing is this. After the Mass, I want you to go over and investigate over there at the manger scene. Because this year, one of our altar society got a great idea, and I think it's a magnificent idea. The manger scene is smothered with light from underneath. There's light all around it. Because I want to ask you, children first, this is a title that Jesus has. Jesus Christ is the of the world. What? Light. Give her a hand. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. And this altar society member had the brilliant thought of creating a place where the light has come into our world. And I'll tell you why Jesus Christ is the light of the world. We can go once again right there. Because when people hated him, he didn't hate back. He could have, but he didn't. He forgave. He loved. And this is light. This is truth. This is love. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is who we celebrate tonight. So we, even though we're anticipating, we sing out our Christmas carols and all these words and songs and beautiful, beautiful testimony to Christ the light who has come into our world, Emmanuel, God with us. Because that's why we have a Santa Claus who gives gifts to everybody, and everybody gives gifts to everybody else. Because we recognize that we are forever changed, because this light this Christ has come into our lives.